Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Embrace the Dark Night to Become the Phoenix Rising, a 7-week journey to uncover the mystic secrets to transfiguration and birth the divine human within. I'm Lisa Bonis, and it is my honor to be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Andrew Harvey and address questions about his upcoming 7-week course, Embrace the Dark Night to Become the Phoenix Rising, which begins Wednesday, October 14th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in this course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Andrew Harvey is an internationally acclaimed poet, novelist, translator, mystical scholar, and spiritual teacher. He's published over 20 books and is the founder of the Institute for Sacred Activism. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to welcome Andrew, who's going to begin our time together by leading us in an opening poem. Welcome, Andrew. It is so nice to spend some time with you today.
Lovely to be with you. It's lovely to be with all of you out there. And I'm so thrilled to hear that so many of you are fascinated by this subject, this series of transmissions, because, oh my God, we are in such an overwhelming dark night. But there is such astounding possibility being born simultaneously out of the horror we're all living. And all this time, all these last years, as I've known this terrible time would come with its amazing promise, I've had this poem by Rumi on my fridge, and I'd love to share it with you to give you the encouragement that it has given me. The whole world could be choked with thorns. A lover's heart will stay a rose garden. The wheel of heaven could wind to a halt. The world of lovers will go on turning, even if every being grew sad. A lover's soul will still stay fresh, vibrant, light. Are all the candles out? Well, hand them to a lover. A lover shoots out 100,000 fires. A lover may be solitary, but she is never alone. For companion she has always the hidden beloved. The drunkenness of lovers comes from the soul, and love's companion stays hidden in secret. Love cannot be deceived by 100 promises. It knows how innumerable the ploys of seducers are. Wherever you find a lover on a bed of pain, you find the beloved right by her bedside. So mount the stallion of love and do not fear the path. Love's horse knows the way exactly. My transmissions are going to be about the way of love's horse. And as we begin our time together, let's just say together in the heart, beloved, beloved, beloved. The Sufis call God by this infinitely beautiful and holy name, beloved. And it's, for me, the most beautiful imaginable name for God, because what it engenders as you say it is the realization that we are here on the earth to fall irretrievably in love with love, in our minds and in our hearts and in our bodies and with the whole energy of our souls, so that we can, through love's own grace, become miraculously unified with love, reborn in love, resurrected in love, renewed and made new incessantly in love. And as you'll see, this is the great secret at the heart of all of the mystical traditions, the great secret that we are going to explore in this wonderful adventure that I'm inviting you to, embracing the dark night to become the phoenix rising. So, my friends, let's just sanctify the time between us. And if you want to put your hand on your heart and just say out loud with me, if you like, or in the depths of your heart, 9 times, the Sufi name for God, beloved. And say it as the lover in you, irretrievably in love with the mystery, the alchemical mystery of love itself. Beloved, 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 beloved. Wherever you find yourself on a bed of pain, know that the beloved is always by your bedside. So mount the stallion of love and do not fear the way. Love's horse knows the way exactly. So, my friends, let's jump in.
Let's jump on. That horse is back.
Let's jump
Thank
on
you,
and
Andrew.
jump in. Yes.
That's right. Thank you
It's such
so
a
much
gorgeous
for that.
poem, isn't it? Oh.
Yeah. I think we all really needed to hear something like that today because it's been a strange, not just 24 hours, but a strange few years.
We are in an
yes.
absolutely terrible period. There's a brilliant article by Tom Friedman in the New York Times this morning, and I read it this morning, and he says, never in the history of America has democracy been so much in danger. And if America loses its democracy, then we have a world catastrophe on our hands, because it won't only be the loss of democratic dignity and rights and equality and all the beauty that we so value in this amazing country. It will be the loss of American championship and leadership in the world at a time when the world is exploding in so many crises. So we're all living the intensity and madness and chaos and sadness and grief of this time. I know what everyone's feeling. But I also know from so many of my friends how the intense chaos of this time is beginning to birth in them something amazingly new inspiration, new passion for mystical practice, new simplification of their lives, new urgency about really now becoming sacred activists and putting love into action. So as this terrible situation bites us deeper and deeper, it also exposes in us new resources of passion and goodness and commitment to love in action urgently. And that's the way in which opposites are dancing now in the divine alchemy to birth a new humanity potentially out of the ashes of the old. So we're in the fiercest of alchemical processes, but how amazing.
Absolutely. Oh, gosh. I think we're going to have a great conversation today about this. So we'll be taking questions from our audience. Once again, we'll also be talking about Andrew's upcoming course. It's called Embrace the Dark Night to Become the Phoenix Rising. begins Wednesday, October 14th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the course, you can visit embracethedarknight.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get into some questions.
It's a pretty provocative title, isn't it, when you think about it, because it's a beautiful title, but actually, if you look at it, it means embrace the dark night. Don't pretend it's not happening. Don't indulge in magical thinking. Don't run off into some new age otherwhere. The world is burning, but in that burning, there is savage grace, because the mystics know that when a dark night descends, with it descends also a new level of secret empowering grace, because what a dark night is divine intervention to kill the false self. And when the divine intervenes like that, it gives you the power and the miraculous strength to survive it. And if you embrace the dark night and learn its lessons, then you're reborn at a wholly new level of empowerment and grace and passion and creativity. And that doesn't happen only at the individual level, as the great mystics know. What is so amazing about the situation that we're in, so challenging, so astounding, is that it's now happening on a global level, because the time for our greatest evolutionary ordeal and transformation, transfiguration, has, through the edict of Kali, come. It's here. Love's hurricane has come. We're in it.
I am so glad that you brought this up, specifically about magical thinking and New Age spirituality. I think that a lot of people really don't understand that it's not just about thinking happy thoughts and happy things will happen in your life. Are you
kidding me? This is garbage. This is not spirituality. This is the chaotic, vulgar lucubration of extreme narcissism. The mystical path has nothing whatever to do with you. You are the problem for you. So what you think you want, the kind of happiness you think you are inventing by your fantasies and your magical thinking, are not only idiotic, they are the greatest imaginable blocks to discovering who you really are, which you can only discover when, through a dark night, which is a savage grace, you live through the systematized annihilation of your false self, so your real self, your phoenix, can rise, and so you can know what Rumi knows, what Ramakrishna knows, what Teresa of Avila knows, what Jesus knows, what Kabir knows, that you are a hologram of the divine with a sacred mission and sacred passion to represent humbly and nobly the divine in every possible way you can. That's the real path. That's the real mystical path. And the New Age, in its horror of suffering, in its absolute disgust at service, in its total inability to face the shadow, in its materialism and drunkenness on the higher, lower narcissism, is a blasphemy against that authentic path. In fact, has polluted millions of minds at the moment when evolution has ordained a tremendous ordeal for us, which we will only be able to take wisely and calmly and strongly and together if we know the real skinny, the real path, the real journey. And fortunately, the great traditions, the great classical traditions, have preserved this sober, stark, but very exalted knowledge and the map that goes with it. And I've spent my whole life studying it, integrating it, because I desperately needed it, because I have been through a dark night. And I know that when you get to the terror and chaos and anxiety and unmasking of evil that's a real dark night, New Age garbage will be about as much use to you as an aspirin is to somebody dying of AIDS. No use at all, because what you need is what I will be offering in these transmissions with tremendous joy. What you need is the real map, the map that Rumi knows, the map that Jesus knows, the map that the prophet knows, the map that the great prophets of Israel know, the map that the Taoist alchemists know, the map that the Kabbalists know. And what's astonishing is that they all know a similar map, because there's one being here in a million disguises going through this great evolutionary transfiguration. And there have been utterly annihilated and utterly brilliant beings who have been given the revelation of the stages of this process. And it's those revelations, that map, that I have lived by, tried to with all my flaws and follies, which has enabled me to survive and thrive and become ever more creative as I age and as I get beginningly transfigured. And it's this map that I know now is essential for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, so that instead of being paralyzed by the horror, we can understand its deep meaning, embrace the lessons it's trying to teach us, die in the ways we need to, into life, into unity, into harmony, into justice, and come together humbly and ecstatically, grabbing this amazing opportunity that chaos is giving us to birth together a new story, a new world, a new vision of embodied divine humanity, and a new practice of embodied divine humanity that radiates out in justice and works of compassion and works of renovation and works of restoring ancient and timeless relationship with the creation and with the animals, so that our children and grandchildren can inherit a glorious, humble, simple world and not a volcano of disaster.
Wow, we are off to a great start. Thank you for that, Andrew.
As you can see, I'm excited by this subject because this is what my whole life has equipped me for. And I feel that all my life has been about getting to this moment that I can give these teachings in this way, not hiding anything, not pretending, not claiming that the way is easy. It's not. This is not user-friendly popcorn rubbish that the New Age has been selling in such a disgusting way at such a serious moment. This is the real classical path, extracted from the depth of the mystical traditions and from my own inmost mystical experience and the mystical experience of other evolutionary mystics, and simplified without being betrayed, so that you can get with it and align with it and realize its tremendous transformative power and be fed joy in the middle of exploding misery, purpose in the volcanic explosions of meaninglessness, and joy and calm and purpose and peace and passion, so as you can keep birthing yourself to ever new levels of transcendent, immanent, compassionate activity, sacred activity in the middle of all of this complete insanity. What a wonderful path. God has really unrolled God's masterpiece for us, and we shouldn't be so stupid as to miss this astounding and terrible occasion.
Right. Now, let me ask you, because we've got a question here from Sharon, which is perfect after what we've just been talking about with regards to magical thinking. Sharon is wondering, well, what about prayer? Does prayer have a part to play in this transfiguration?
Are you kidding? Prayer is absolutely essential. Prayer is not magical thinking. Prayer is speaking to the beloved nakedly out of the turmoil of your life, out of the turmoil of your heart, out of the adoration, out of the longing. And in this process of transfiguration, prayer plays an immensely transformative part for three reasons. The first is that you need, and this is something that I will do with you if you let me, you need to write your own prayer for your own birth into becoming a divine human. And that you'll discover will mean engendering in your soul and heart an absolutely flaming trust in God's capacity to expand you through grace beyond anything you've ever known or understood. So one of the most important prayers that everybody needs at this moment, and something that came to me through a vision in my own dark night, was to write the prayer of what you long to incarnate in mind, soul, body, and heart, the whole of you, when this terrible process has reached its true consummation. That's the first thing. And when you have written your own prayer about your own birth and repeat it incessantly, diving deeper and deeper and richer into its meanings and its passions, you'll find that you and that prayer will become one living, evolving, fiery, gorgeous energy of transformation. This isn't poetry, this is how it works. The second reason why prayer is so important is because through prayer, you establish a naked, direct relationship with your larger you. If you want to think of yourself in the real divine way, think of yourself as a drop of light water in a infinite ocean of pulsing, vibrating, blazing divine light. And you are made of the same substance as that sea, but you're not the whole sea, although in a miraculous way, that whole sea can, through mystical experience, start to reveal its presence and its secrets and its mysteries in you. And there comes an experience when the whole sea and you are one. When you pray, you're praying to this larger you and establishing this amazing direct communion with your larger you, which is the secret of the transfiguration process, because the more you establish that connection, the more your larger you, this divine self that wants you to be the embodied divine, can reveal its secrets and its mysteries to you. And this is why the great mystics always say, and Kabir says this, Rumi says this, Meister Eckhart says this, it's said in the Kabbalistic tradition, it's known in the Hindu tradition and the Buddhist tradition. The great secret of this kind of prayer is saying the name of God as a mantra in the heart. This is the practice that I do as often and as incessantly as I can, because I've discovered over 40 years that it is the most amazing way of keeping in connection with the perpetual miracle that is my larger me and is your larger me. And the third reason, and this is, I think, really important, so I'm going to emphasize it for all of you. And there's a book that's just come out, which I beg you to get, because it's such a sizzling scorcher of a book. It's a book of genius, and it's a book by Carolyn Mace. It's called Intimate Conversations with the Divine. And in it, she lays out brilliantly, you know how brilliant Caroline is. She's my greatest friend. She lives just around the corner, so we're constantly in cahoots. She's laid out brilliantly in this book a way of praying that allows you to just expose yourself nakedly to God, to ask exactly and precisely what you need in the situation that you find yourself. And you'll find Not only the book will be a revelation to you, and I beg you to get it, but you'll find that when you undertake seriously the transfiguration process, you're going to come on some pretty baffling, weird, complex situations in yourself. You're going to undergo some strange ordeals. It's not simple stuff. You don't just decide to be transfigured and then the golden light does it. You go through many different subtle shifts and bewilderments. And what you learn from this book and from praying like this is that you never, ever, ever are lost in this process. You always can open the actual truth of your actual process at the actual moment that you actually need right now, what you need to the divine, and that allows the divine to flood you with a very precise grace. It's an astonishing discovery. So that's why prayer is at the core of the transfiguration process. In fact, you could say that the whole process was a kind of whole being prayer to love, the creative force of the universe, to recreate you as its living hologram in mind, heart, soul, and body. And that's why all the masters of the transfiguration process, and of course there are women masters too, all of them have stressed how essential it is to make your whole life a burning, ecstatic prayer of nameless, wordless devotion to love. Love at all moments, love at all costs, so that love, through your praying with your every thought, your every emotion, your every action, can possess you increasingly, intensely, and deeply, and even in the end, cellularly, so that you can be engoldened and resurrected and reborn and come into your true, wonderful, vibrant, ragged, gorgeous human divinity.
All right. Wow. If you're just joining us, we're here with Andrew Harvey, learning about his upcoming course, Embrace the Dark Night to Become the Phoenix Rising. It is. It begins Wednesday, October 14th, and you can log on to embracethedarknight.com for all the details. Oh, wow. Andrew, let's dive back into the questions here. We've got one from Christine. Given everything that's going on in our country politically, what do you suggest a sacred activist do?
There are three things that I beg everyone who really wants to be a sacred activist to do. The first is to face without illusion what is actually happening in this country. And that takes unbelievable courage, because it means coming to terms as far as you can with the shadow of America, the shadow of genocide, the shadow of hubris, the shadow of exploitation, the shadow of racism, horrible, horrible racism, and the way in which that shadow has been perpetuated by your own participating in all of those shadows. That's the first central act, and it's a very grueling task. The second absolutely essential task is to look at this exploding horror, recognize it as an explosion of a disease that you also have in part, and use that recognition not to be paralyzed, but to plunge deeply, passionately, in a way that you've never ever plunged before, into the depths of mystical practice, asking at the most primordial and elemental level for three things: for direct insight into discernment into what's really going on behind all the shifting chaos, and secondly, tremendous passion and compassion, energy, and thirdly, joy despite everything, direct joy from the source. Because you're going to need that discernment, that energy and that joy to be able to do the third thing, which I'll try and open up for you. Because we cannot watch this disaster unfold without committing ourselves to being transfigured enough to be able to stand up calmly for compassion and justice in whatever now unfolds. And there is no one on this call, including me, who really knows what is about to unfold. What could unfold in the very worst scenario is nothing less than a second civil war, which could shred everything that we love and everything that we believe in, and prepare a very, very dark night for an America that's already ravaged by the coronavirus and by racism and by this terrible famine of truth that you know who has spread like cholera through the land. So, in the third challenge to all sacred activists, I ask everyone to identify what in this situation breaks their heart the most. Are you most heartbroken about the spread of lies? Well, then, make sure that you get as much truth as possible behind you, really research the truth, and start spreading it to everyone you know, the truth behind all of the fantasies and the conspiracy theories. If that's what breaks your heart the most, start working with the truth. If you're heartbroken at the way in which the first responders are still not being respected, then lobby your senators, lobby the people in government, and beg them to start addressing the agony of poverty that many of the first responders are facing. If you're deeply disturbed by the fact, and we all should be and must be, that there are 30 million people unemployed, many of whom are going through terrible food insecurity, then if you have some cash and if you can cook, help the various banks that are really spreading food and giving food, often to middle-class people who are deeply ashamed but deeply grateful that they have some people who still care in this nightmare of consciencelessness that the country is living through. If you're alarmed about what a potential Trump victory could do to women's bodies, for example, then get with all of the various organizations like Planned Parenthood who are calling for volunteers to educate the women of this country so that they vote in a way that protects their rights. It goes on and on and on. Where your heartbreak is your passion, is your energy. Find your heartbreak, find the energy that it has, live that passion, and do something clear and humble and decent about that passion. And you will feel real and dignified whatever happens.
All right. Wow. Powerful words. Thank you.
Well, this is what we're facing.
Absolutely.
This
Absolutely.
is what we're facing. We really don't know. I think this is why we should all be very humble, especially the teachers, because so many of the teachers have spread fake optimism for so long, and everything that we're living is detonating that. I've not been one of those teachers, as you know, because I have myself seen that this was coming. I knew it was coming. I have known it was coming and talked about it for years. But even knowing how dreadful it would be is a very humbling experience.
Indeed, indeed. And it absolutely is time. We've got a question here from Michael with regard to this whole topic. No, there's not.
No more time. If this is the time. If we don't align ourselves with the ruthless awakening that the dark night offers us, we will lose our last best hope, and we will sink into extinction. Actually, we won't sink into extinction, we will race towards extinction blindly and savagely. If we align ourselves with the Dark Night and its lessons and its austere but amazing possibilities, then something utterly extraordinary can happen, the birth of a new human race. We're at the position in which we have to hold the two most outrageous possibilities we've ever imagined together. On the one hand, the possibility of addictively clinging to our hubris and madness and dying out stunningly soon, or going for the most outrageous truth that the mystical systems have ever imagined, the truth of birthing the divine in the body, in the mind, in the heart, and going for it with everything that we have urgently. Holding those both together is quite a business, but that's what my transmissions in this class will try and help you to do in a way that will galvanize and transform your life and thrill you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, this question, it says, could rising from the ashes be literal, like conscious dying, leaving form behind? Could humanity be facing a rapture?
That's one scenario, and I think it's essential as part of this huge transformation we are going through to prepare oneself for the very worst. I asked the Dalai Lama a few years ago if he felt that humanity was capable of going through what it had to go through to birth a new humanity, to be able to find the wisdom and the passion and the togetherness that could help us birth a new world. And he said he didn't know, and he didn't know anybody who did know. What he did know was that we should prepare for the worst and work tirelessly for the best. So I think there is a very deep and serious way in which truly preparing oneself for one's mortality, for one's death, is a very important thing for everyone to do at this moment, not just for one's own death, but for the death of everything that all of us have given our lives for, which is, in my experience, an even more terrible death to bear. The advantage that I've discovered, and many of us have discovered and are discovering, of preparing for our own death whenever it comes, even if it comes soon because of some crazy violence or some world war or whatever, or some natural disaster that's exploding because of climate change, and also preparing for the death of nature, the extraordinary beauty that is born out of the most savage heartbreak, the most intense imaginable love for everyone and everything and every animal and every plant and every mountain and every lesbian acrobat and every little dog and my cat Jade, that's born from really, really facing that horrific transience that we now could be in. The paradox is that gives you a new energy to turn up, not necessarily with hope, but with radiant love pouring yourself out. So that is part of the work of transfiguration, because you're going to need that level of radiant love for all things if you're going to do this beautiful, holy, wild, grueling work of allowing yourself to be engoldened by love and transfigured in heart, mind, soul, and body. And if you step back and look at this dance of opposites that we're in, you realize with amazement that the savagery of the dark night that we're in is calculated precisely by the divine to shatter all of our illusions and securities, so that either we go mad and crazy and go deeper into denial and kill ourselves, or we experience a new level of abandoned love so profound that our lives are transfigured right now. And even if we come to the end of all things. We will be meeting that end with a wholly new level of embodied, loving, real, naked compassion. So that's what I am practicing myself. That's what a great many environmental activists have come to. And when I practice that, even without my belief that we are in a mutation and that the evolutionary will of the Godhead is to transfigure us, I am filled with a new level of courage, a new level of joy, just as is. How amazing. So it's worth practicing.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm looking at the clock. We have time for a couple more questions.
Yes.
But before we take those, I want to go ahead and give a few details about the course itself. People are asking about that, so I'll go ahead and field those. Once again, the name of the class is Embrace the Dark Night to Become the Phoenix Rising. And this is going to be such a powerful 7-week journey with Andrew and his expert guidance and his powerful transmissions, where you'll discover what it means to be reborn into a radically new empowerment of the divine human with the teachings of the 4 greatest mystic teachers of the last century. And then the 7-week course takes place on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 5 p.m., beginning Wednesday, October 14th. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings because you will receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all the course handouts on your course homepage, which you can keep forever. These files do not expire. You can download them, keep them, listen to them on other devices, etc. Also, I'd like to remind you that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving a full 2 weeks until October 28th in this case, to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can connect with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Embrace the Dark Night bonus collection. First, you'll receive a video reading from Andrew's 2019 book, Becoming God, 108 Epigrams from the Cherubic Pilgrim by Angelus Silesius. Next, you'll get a video teaching from Andrew called The Golden Mother. Then you'll receive a video teaching from Andrew entitled The Dark Mother. You'll also get a guided audio transfiguration meditation from Andrew called Om Namo Bhagavate. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Friday, October 2nd, you'll receive this extra gift, an audio album in which Andrew reads chosen Kabir poems with beautiful, euphoric accompanying music. So Andrew, before we get back into our Q&A, I want to ask you, what are you most looking forward to sharing in this specific upcoming course?
You know, what I'm really thrilled about sharing is the experience and the testimonies and the witness and the maps, all of which converge, of the 4 great guides that I long to introduce you to in depth, because they are so helpful and so crucial to this amazing evolutionary process we're in. The first one is Father Bede Griffiths, who was my beloved and who was in many ways the greatest Christian mystic of the 20th century, and who was himself living the transfiguration process out of the depths of his mystical knowledge of the real Christian mystical tradition. And that will be the first person I introduce you to, because he was the one who revealed to me that it wasn't poetry, it was real, it was happening to him, and I am the disciple of a transfigured master, of a transfigured beloved, because he really wasn't a guru, he was something so much more beautiful than a guru, he was a beloved. Then I'm going to really plunge into the Plato of evolution, the single greatest evolutionary mystic humanity has ever had. That's a grand statement, but I think Sri Aurobindo fulfills it. And for many people, Sri Aurobindo is very difficult to read, but I've been reading him and experiencing what he's been writing about and truly plunging into him for 40 years, and I want to lay at your feet some of the essential treasures, the diamonds that only Sri Aurobindo can give us. And those will be 2 transmissions which will lead to the exploration of his great consort, the mother's work that she did after he left his body, an absolutely radical, astounding, revolutionary work in which she said all the old yogas are horse manure. They're not going to work in this tragic, amazing situation we're in. I am going to go on an absolutely new journey. I am going to go on a journey into the mind of the cells using a mantra and dedicating myself to being transfigured, to being mutated. She did this in her 90s. And we have an astounding record through her disciple, Satprem, of the different experiences and recognitions and astounding insights that came to her. And I'm going to share with you the essential crystallizations that she came to, so that, and the practice, which I do and so many of us do, that she did, that can truly help this amazing mystery to become clearer to you and in you. And then I'm going to, at the end, plunge into the work of Satprem, who was her devoted disciple, the devoted disciple of Aurobindo, but in his own right, not only a genius of a writer, but an unstoppably brave pioneer of this evolutionary mystery of transfiguration, who wrote astounding books in French, 2 of which I'll be mining for you for their most radical insights to give you the most possible inspiration. These 4 are, for my money, the great mystics of evolution, our great modern guides. And I chose 4 modern guides. I could have chosen ancient guides like Kabir or like Moses de Leon, but I wanted you to know, that this is happening now, and these people have taken staggering adventures into this new world we're going into, whether we like it or not, or have to go into, so that you can feel, oh my God, we have a map, we have guides, we have people who are able to communicate what's happening, and you won't feel so lost, but amazingly inspired and encouraged and ennobled and filled with joy, because this is, however terrible some of its aspects are, and however demanding the evolutionary circumstances we're in, oh my God, to be on an adventure like this, what an honor, what a privilege, what an ecstasy, what a possibility, what an amazing grace for you and I, if only we're adult enough to get rid of the magical thinking, look at the real map, align ourselves with the real truths of that map, and allow love's grace to do its terrible and astounding work in us to rebirth us into our true divine human selves.
All right, wonderful. While we're talking about the course, we do have several people asking if they've taken your previous courses. How will this one compare?
This is absolutely built on everything that I've ever taught, because I teach like I think a composer composes. My music is always related to my other music. But there are, I think, 3 essential ways in which this course is totally different. First is the time has come to really face full on the intensity and horror and madness of what we're living. So I'll be giving an unsparing map of this process in a way that I never could have done before, revealing more of the structures, both of the dark night process and of the transfiguration process. Those who think they know some of this map will be immeasurably deepened by what I hope to offer. The second thing that is different is that I'll be plunging deeply through Bede Griffiths into the mystery at the heart of Christian mysticism, the mystery of the transfiguration process released by the resurrection, and offering some deep and sacred and hidden esoteric practices that have never been given. I have never given. They may have been given by Bede himself, but which he gave me. A new level of understanding of Christian mysticism, which I hope will bring so many people back, not to the Jesus of the churches, but to the authentic Jesus as a pioneer, a staggering pioneer of this astounding birth of a new divine human, someone who did it and was it and radiated it, not to create a church, but to resurrect humanity. That's going to be a very important part of what I'm offering, and I will be going into much greater depth than I've ever done before into the work of Aurobindo and the Mother and Sattvam at a level which all of those who have already met them, given the circumstances, given the intensity of what we're living through, will be calibrated at a wholly new level to be more revelatory and more pragmatically useful. And the third way in which this will be different is that I will be offering practices in combinations that have only recently been awoken in me as my own practice of this process has immeasurably deepened as it has over the months that I've been teaching. I've taught 2 classes on Engoldenen. Teaching them was amazing, but going through the coronavirus and this shutdown and this explosion of shadow has crystallized at a depth that I never imagined possible practices that I will be offering you immediately, directly, so that as they come molten from my core and my relationship with the different traditions that have given me these practices, but as I've used them out of deep longing and need, I found how powerful they are, and that will, I hope, offer you a whole new set of practices that will be vibrantly useful to you. And the special practice that I hope to go into in some significant detail, because I myself know far more about it through these last months, is the practice of using the mantra in the transfiguration of the cells. This is something I've been doing for a while, but it's only recently that I'm beginning to understand not how to do it, but how to let it be done. And I want to share that with you because it will save you a lot of time. And I want to save you as much time as possible because, quite frankly, we don't have time. We're hanging by a thread, but the divine has given us this terror and this urgency and torrents of grace to allow us to take this adventure if we really want to, and will give us everything we need. So please, please join me. Even if you feel you've received some of the essential teaching, this is a wholly new level of concretization, pragmatic help, and living wild transformative practices.
All right. If you don't mind, let me combine 2 questions. One person is asking, how did you get through the 10 years of dark night of the soul? But there's another person who's just plain asking, what is the dark night? So let's start with, and I know that's a huge question.
That is like saying, what is quantum physics? But I will try and explain. Okay. The New Age can turn everything into tofu. So often you hear people say they've been through a dark night when they've been through a depression or a betrayal or a bankruptcy or a serious illness. And those are all frightening, sometimes terrible things, and I'm not knocking them. Please don't think that. But actually, the dark night is something that happens, a mystery that unfolds at a higher level of the path. It unfolds in the second stage of the 4-part path to divinization. In the first stage, you wake up, you go through practices, and and ordeals, and you're given the grace of seeing the light nakedly. And then in the second stage, you work consciously with the new energy and joy that awakening has brought into you, and it tempts you with massive inflation. You believe you really are something because the light is giving you such a new level of energy and truth. And in all the classical systems, this is where you have to be destroyed to be saved from your own subtle ego. And if you're truly sincere, you're rewarded at this stage by the dark night, which is a systematic divine event which tears you apart emotionally, spiritually, physically, usually all three, in terms of your own nature, your own darkness, your own temperament, and your own potential gifts. You go through this until you are ready to be reborn, until the full nature of the shadow in you and your darkness has been exposed, and you've been given the complete dark night root canal on all the secret roots of your subtle lust for power and subtle hunger to dominate and manipulate and flatter and use other people and use what God's giving you for your own glory and power and money and sex rather than serving God and God's plan for humanity. That's what the dark night is, and all the great mystical systems know that this is both terrifying beyond belief, but also an ultimate grace, because if you can stand it, if you can know the map, if you can know why it's happening, if you know why it's there, then you can let the divine kill you and rebirth you. And the way you let yourself be killed and reborn, which is basically what the process is through blind, loving trust in love. The beauty of where it comes in the path is that by that time you've seen the divine light. You know that God is real. You've had, through grace, extraordinary mystical experiences, so that when this time for your killing has come, you have those certainties to hold in your hands of love. And what that really drives you to, if you're following the map of the great mystics who know this process, and if you're listening to them, what that really drives you to is to practice the name of God, the practices that you love, with an intensity that you've never done before, because now you're practicing them to stay sane, to stay centered, to drink some joy from the cup of mystery that this boiling agony has held out to you. So any kind of practice that you did before becomes trivial compared to what you do in the dark night. And through that, you discover what prayer really is, what practice really is. It's breathing not to drown in agony and horror and darkness. It's what enables you to stay oxygenated with divine truth and divine survival skills and stay receptive to divine guidance. And you come to know that, which makes you practice even more intensely. And what happens during the dark night process, and this is so astounding, is that one side of yourself experiences yourself being completely boiled alive or dissolved in black acid. It is relentless and absolutely agonizing, and it's meant to be. It has to be, because you have to feel the pain of the world and the pain that you've caused and the pain that your shadow relentlessly suffuses everything with. You've got to feel it. And the other half of you is being opened by your growing humility, by your radical pain, by your hunger, by your need, by your crying out in agony and in longing to ever greater revelations of divine mercy and divine grace. One part of you is in total agony. Another part is increasingly amazed, bewildered, shaken, shattered, astounded by how mercy is working even in the agony, and how people and things start to boil all around you in divine constellations that help you and enable you to overcome slowly those addictions and shadows that have trapped you, so that you can be born anew, reborn, resurrected as a completely different being, which is what you become. You're midwifed by both savage agony and amazing miracle in the dark night process into a wholly new embodied divine human being. And this is true. This is what happens. And the secret is to stay in love with love, whatever's happening, through prayer, through saying the name of God, through pouring out love, even if you're in agony. Because love notices when you're wild and noble, and love then gives you the highest reward of all, which is to kill you and rebirth you.
All right. This has been such a moving conversation. We're out of time. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your amazing questions. Once again, Embrace the Dark Night
Yes.
to Become Phoenix Rising begins Wednesday, October 14th, and you can visit embracethedarknight.com to learn more and to register. And Andrew, I would love to hear, what are your final words before we close for the day?
Let the final words be these 5 lines of Kabir, which, if I had a gun to my head and was asked, what do you think is the truth of your true self, I would quote these lines. So I'm quoting them for you. This is what I believe I know at this moment in my life. And I want so much for you to know, because knowing this changes everything. My Father is the absolute Godhead, and my mother is the embodied Godhead, and I am their divine child, dancing for them both on their burning dance floor. What being transfigured means is being born into the dimension of union with the unified force field of the sacred marriage of transcendence and immanence, so that you yourself feel totally loved, totally blessed, totally adored, totally suffused with light in every part of yourself, all together, all at once, so that you can become what you have always in your wildest, maddest, most beautiful, most holy dreams imagined you could become: a dancer for the Father, Mother on the burning dance floor of the world, offering your whole life up as your dance of celebration, your dance of sacred activism, your dance of praise, your dance of ecstatic gratitude, so that when you die, you will have had the honor and the joy of igniting that holy dance in as many people who could be radiantly infected by it in your life. That's living the divine life. And there is nothing in this world that can give you the joy that that can give you. No money, no power, no fame. It is why we are here, to know what being here really is, really means, really offers, really can help you radiate, and even in the middle of horror and apocalypse, enjoy.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you, Andrew. It's been an honor having this conversation with you today. Thank you for being
Been
here
lovely
with
to
us.
be with you, Lisa, and lovely that we had our time before to just talk as human beings. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all.
All right. And I also want to thank everyone for joining us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.